Colonel Craxon towered over the restrained human soldier Jesse Holmes, gleefully mocking the feeble creature's inferiority compared to the mighty Voth, not realizing that Holmes's escape and vengeance would soon become his greatest regret. "Look at you, human, with your soft pink skin and fragile bones. How pathetic," Craxon sneered, his forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "Your primitive weapons and flimsy armor were no match for our superior technology and strength." The Voth colonel paced around the interrogation room, his clawed feet scraping menacingly against the metal floor. His scaly green skin glistened under the harsh lights as he gloated about the ease with which his race had conquered Earth. "Your greatest warriors fell before us like helpless children. We crushed your militaries, burned your cities, and enslaved your people. And now here you are, at my mercy," Craxon hissed, his 4 red eyes narrowing. In the early days of humanity's expansion into space, the technologically outmatched humans had been no match for the ancient spacefaring Voth. Standing 7 feet tall, with muscular reptilian bodies and advanced weaponry, the proud warrior race had regarded the comparatively small and weak humans as little more than animals to be subjugated. "Tell me the location of your secret resistance base, and I may spare you from the worst of the pain," Craxon demanded, his voice dripping with sadistic anticipation. "Refuse, and you will beg for death before I'm done with you." Despite the colonel's intimidating words and appearance, Jesse Holmes met Craxon's gaze unflinchingly. The battle-hardened soldier had faced death countless times, and he knew that the fate of the remaining free humans depended on his resolve. With a defiant smirk, Holmes prepared to turn the tables on his captor, knowing that the Voth's arrogance would be their downfall. However, Holmes's defiance wasn't just a bluff. See, before he allowed himself to get captured, Jesse had snuck into a Voth armory. He had grabbed a small plasma grenade, one that was potent enough to vaporize all organic matter in a 30-foot radius. That little silver ball had been hidden away in a secret compartment in his boot the whole time. He was waiting for just the right moment to give the Voth a devastating blow, and with one of their leaders standing right in front of him, that time was now. "Checkmate, you scaly bastard," Jesse declared, and with a deft flick of his wrist he brought out the active grenade. Craxon's 4 red eyes widened in shock at the blinking light of the grenade. He tried to back away, intending to make a run for it. But Jesse wasn't going to let him get away that easy. He tackled Craxon to the floor of the interrogation room, holding him down with the last reserves of his strength. Jesse's sacrifice dealt a devastating blow to the Voth invasion. Not only did he take out one of their highest-ranking officers, but the news of a human soldier making a suicide attack shook the Voth forces to their core. Suddenly, humans didn't seem so weak anymore. If one of them was willing to go that far, what else were they capable of? Word of Jesse's attack spread among the human resistance cells across the globe. The story of his bravery and sacrifice rekindled the fires of rebellion in the hearts of many. If Jesse Holmes could strike such a blow against the Voth, then maybe, just maybe, humanity stood a chance after all. In the weeks that followed, the resistance surged with renewed vigor, launching daring raids and surprise attacks that the Voth never saw coming. In a dank, dimly lit underground bunker, hidden deep beneath the ruins of a once-thriving metropolis, a group of battle-weary human resistance leaders huddled around a flickering holographic display. They watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief as news of Jesse Holmes's brazen suicide attack against the Voth colonel spread like wildfire across the planet's battered communication networks. Among the gathered rebels stood Commander Zoe Riggs, her piercing green eyes fixed on the screen, her scarred face etched with a complex tapestry of emotions. Riggs was a seasoned warrior, a veteran of countless skirmishes against the Voth invaders. The jagged scar that ran down her left cheek served as a constant reminder of a particularly vicious hand-to-hand fight with a towering Voth soldier, a battle she had only narrowly survived. As the details of Holmes's sacrifice became clear, Riggs slammed her fist down on the table, the force of the blow causing the holographic display to flicker momentarily. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, a testament to the depth of her grief and the fierceness of her resolve. Jesse Holmes had been more than just another soldier under her command. Riggs had taken the young man under her wing, personally overseeing his training and guiding him through the brutal realities of the war against the Voth. Over time, she had come to see him as the son she had never had, a bright light in the darkness of the occupation. Now, with Holmes gone, Riggs knew that the time for mourning would have to wait. The resistance needed leadership, now more than ever, and she was determined to ensure that Holmes's sacrifice would not be in vain. Rising to her feet, Riggs addressed the assembled rebels, her voice steady and filled with a quiet intensity. Jesse Holmes was a hero, a shining example of what humanity is capable of in the face of overwhelming odds. His actions today have struck a blow against the Voth that they won't soon forget. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. But we can't let this moment pass us by. The Voth leadership is in disarray, their arrogance shaken by the knowledge that even one of us can bring their mighty warriors low. This is our chance to strike back, to show them that humanity will never submit to their rule. Riggs activated the holographic display, bringing up a map of the planet's surface. Glowing red markers indicated the locations of key Voth installations, supply depots, and command centers. I propose a coordinated global offensive, hitting the Voth where they're most vulnerable. We'll strike hard and fast, using every trick in our playbook to keep them off balance. It won't be easy, and the risks are high, but if we succeed, we could turn the tide of this war once and for all. Around the room, the other resistance leaders exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued by the audacity of Riggs' plan. The resistance had always relied on guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks designed to bleed the Voth dry without risking open confrontation. What Riggs was suggesting was something else entirely, a gamble that could either lead to victory or utter annihilation. But as Riggs laid out the details of her strategy, her passion and conviction began to win over even the most doubting of her compatriots. One by one, they nodded their assent, a new fire kindling in their eyes as they saw a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. As the meeting drew to a close, and the rebel leaders dispersed to mobilize their respective cells, Riggs paused to look up at a faded photograph of Jesse Holmes that hung on the bunker wall. The young soldier stared back at her, his face set in the same expression of determination that he had worn in life. With the fires of rebellion rekindled by Jesse Holmes's sacrifice, the scene shifts to the heart of the Voth occupation, where the alien invaders reel from this stunning blow. In a towering citadel that looms over the conquered earth like a monstrous tombstone, the Voth leadership descends into chaos and recrimination following Colonel Craxon's sudden demise. "The humans grow bold," General Zorgak snarls, his battle-scarred face twisted with rage. The general's cybernetic left arm, a relic of some long-ago conflict, whirs and clicks as he slams his fist on the table. "We must act swiftly and decisively to crush this uprising before it spreads. Double the patrols, enforce strict curfews, and make an example of any human who dares to resist." Across the table, Admiral Krill leans back in his chair, his sleek black carapace gleaming in the harsh light. "Brute force alone will not solve this problem," the Admiral counters, his voice smooth and calculating. "The more we tighten our grip, the more these humans will slip through our fingers. We must be smart, surgical, and stifle their spirit without making martyrs." As the two Voth leaders trade barbs and accusations, the doors to the command center hiss open, and a hush falls over the room. Overseer Zalok, the supreme leader of the Voth occupation, strides into the chamber, his ornate golden exoskeleton adorned with intricate carvings that seem to writhe and shimmer with a life of their own. Standing over 8 feet tall, Zalok's presence fills the room, his very being radiating an aura of unquestionable authority. With a mere gesture, Zalok silences the bickering officials, his eyes narrowing as he surveys the room. The Voth Empire did not conquer 1,000 worlds by bowing to the tantrums of lesser species, he rumbles, his voice a deep, guttural growl. "We will not be intimidated by the desperate tactics of these humans, nor will we tolerate dissent within our own ranks." The Overseer's gaze falls upon a holographic display showing a dozen human prisoners, their faces gaunt and hollow with despair. "Execute them," Zalok commands, his voice devoid of emotion. "Let their deaths serve as a warning to any who would challenge our rule." As Zorgax and Krill bow their heads in submission and turn to carry out their orders, Zalok strides to the window, his gaze sweeping over the ruins of a once great human city. The shattered skyscrapers and crumbling monuments stand as a testament to the Voth's overwhelming might, but as the overseer stares out at the desolate landscape, a flicker of doubt crosses his unreadable features. Perhaps, the narrator suggests, in that moment Zalok begins to realize that the Voth may have underestimated the depth of human resolve, the unbreakable spirit that burns within these fragile creatures. For in the face of annihilation, the humans have not cowered or surrendered, but instead have risen up united by the sacrifices of heroes like Jesse Holmes, ready to fight and die for the chance to reclaim their world. The narrator returns their focus to the human resistance, led by the indomitable commander Zoe Riggs. Across the globe, Riggs' forces launch a series of coordinated strikes against key Voth strongholds, seeking to capitalize on the chaos sown by Jesse Holmes's sacrifice. In the war-torn streets of once thriving cities, human fighters armed with scavenged Voth weapons engage in brutal close-quarters combat with the alien occupiers. Plasma bolts sizzle through the air, searing holes in crumbling walls and reducing abandoned vehicles to molten slag. The acrid stench of burnt flesh and ozone hangs heavy in the air as both sides clash in a desperate struggle for survival. At the forefront of this offensive is Commander Riggs herself, leading a daring assault on a heavily fortified Voth weapons depot. The narrator paints a vivid picture of the battle-hardened soldier charging headlong into the fray, her plasma rifles spitting death with every squeeze of the trigger. Riggs moves with the fluid grace of a seasoned warrior, her every motion honed by years of relentless combat against the Voth invaders. As Riggs and her squad fight their way deeper into the depot, the resistance leader barks orders over the din of battle. "Keep pushing forward. We need those weapons if we're going to have any chance of winning this war." The human fighters rally behind their commander, their spirits bolstered by her unwavering resolve. They surge forward, braving the withering fire of Voth defenders as they close in on their objective. Just as victory seems within their grasp, a deafening explosion rips through the compound, sending Riggs and her team flying like ragdolls. The narrator reveals that the Voth, in a last-ditch effort to deny the humans their prize, had rigged the depot with powerful self-destruct charges. The aliens, it seems, would rather destroy their own weapons than see them fall into the hands of the resistance. As the smoke and debris settle, Riggs staggers to her feet, her face streaked with blood and grime. Around her, the shattered remnants of her squad struggle to regroup, their ranks thinned by the devastating blast. But even in the face of this setback, the commander refuses to yield. "On your feet, soldiers," Riggs barks, her voice hoarse but filled with steely determination. "We're not done here yet. Salvage what you can from the wreckage and prepare to move out. The Voth may have won this round, but the fight is far from over." The narrator marvels at the indomitable spirit of these human fighters, who press on despite the odds, scavenging what weapons and supplies they can from the rubble of the destroyed depot. This scene, the narrator suggests, is but a microcosm of the larger struggle unfolding across the planet. From the frozen tundra of the Arctic to the scorching sands of the desert, human resistance cells launch their own daring raids against Voth installations. Though each individual victory may seem small in the grand scheme of things, together they begin to chip away at the foundations of the alien occupation. The Voth, once secure in their dominance, now find themselves beset on all sides by a species they had once dismissed as primitive and weak. The humans, united by the memory of fallen heroes like Jesse Holmes and guided by the unwavering leadership of Commander Riggs, fight on with a tenacity and courage that belies their humble origins. As the narrator surveys the global battlefield, the true scope of the human resistance becomes clear. This is no longer a scattered insurgency, but a full-fledged uprising, a planet-wide revolt against the Voth tyranny. The question remains, however, will the courage and sacrifice of these brave fighters be enough to turn the tide, Or will the superior might of the Voth ultimately crush the human spirit once and for all? The future of Earth and the fate of humanity itself hang in the balance as the battle rages on, and the narrator can only watch and chronicle the unfolding drama, a silent witness to the defining moment of an entire species. The narrator turns our attention to a hidden underground laboratory, where humanity's brightest minds toil ceaselessly to unravel the enigma of Voth technology. Deep beneath the war-torn surface, Dr. Ethan Winters leads a team of intrepid scientists in their quest to find a chink in the alien invaders' armor. The lab hums with a symphony of whirring machines and beeping consoles, the air thick with the acrid tang of ozone and the musty scent of ancient artifacts. At the center of this controlled chaos stands Dr. Winters, his steely gaze fixed on a glowing holographic display, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a sense of urgency that borders on desperation. Suddenly, a triumphant cry pierces the din, and all eyes turn to Lena Patel, a brilliant young prodigy whose intellect belies her tender years. She bounds across the lab, her dark eyes sparkling with excitement as she thrusts a datapad into Dr. Winters' hands. "I've found it," she exclaims, her voice trembling with barely contained elation. "A vulnerability in the Voth's energy shielding system. If we can exploit this weakness, our weapons might finally be able to penetrate their defenses." Dr. Winters scans the data, his brow furrowing as he absorbs the implications of Patel's discovery. In an instant, the weight of responsibility settles upon his shoulders, and he knows that the fate of humanity may well rest on his next move. Without hesitation, he springs into action, barking orders to his team as he begins to formulate a plan to weaponize Patel's findings. The lab erupts into a frenzy of activity, with scientists and engineers working shoulder to shoulder, their faces etched with grim determination, as they race against time to create a device that could turn the tide of the war. Days bleed into nights, and still the team labors on, fueled by a potent cocktail of hope, desperation, and sheer force of will. They subsist on caffeine and adrenaline, their minds and bodies pushed to the brink of exhaustion as they pour every ounce of their skill and knowledge into the project. At last, after an eternity of sleepless nights and countless setbacks, Dr. Winters emerges from the lab, a small, unassuming device clutched in his trembling hands. To the untrained eye, it appears to be little more than a jumble of wires and circuitry, but to those who have toiled to create it, it represents the culmination of their hopes and dreams. The narrator pauses, allowing the gravity of the moment to sink in. For the first time since the Voth invasion began, the human resistance has a glimmer of hope, a chance to level the playing field against their technologically superior foes. The device in Dr. Winters' hands, born of desperation and forged in the crucible of adversity, may well be the key to humanity's salvation. Without wasting a moment, Dr. Winters contacts Commander Riggs, his voice crackling with barely contained excitement as he shares the news of their breakthrough. The two leaders, united by their unwavering commitment to the cause, begin to lay the groundwork for a daring mission to put the device to the ultimate test on the battlefield. The scene fades, the narrator's voice lingering in the air like a promise of things to come. The stage is set for a climactic confrontation, a battle that will decide the fate of not only the human resistance, but the future of Earth itself. As Dr. Winters and Commander Riggs prepare to embark on their audacious gambit, the eyes of the world turn to them, their hearts filled with a fragile yet unshakable hope that this, at last, may be the turning point they have so desperately sought. The narrator shifts the scene to the outskirts of a heavily fortified Voth military installation, where Commander Zoe Riggs and her hand-picked team of elite soldiers crouch in the shadows, their hearts pounding with a potent mix of anticipation and apprehension. Each fighter clutches a prototype of Dr. Winters' groundbreaking invention, dubbed the Voth Buster, a device that could finally tip the scales in humanity's favor. Riggs gathers her team close, her voice low and intense as she emphasizes the critical nature of their mission. "This is it, people. The moment we've been waiting for. If these devices work as promised, we'll be able to punch through the Voth's defenses like never before. But if we fail? She lets the unspoken consequences hang in the air, the weight of their responsibility pressing down on every shoulder. With a final nod, Riggs signals for the team to move out, leading the charge towards the looming Voth compound. As they approach the perimeter, the narrator describes the eerie stillness that hangs over the installation, the calm before the storm. Suddenly, the silence is shattered by the piercing wail of alarms as Voth sentries spot the incoming humans. Plasma bolts streak through the air, sizzling past the advancing rebels as they dive for cover. "Activate the Voth busters!" Riggs shouts over the din of battle, her voice ringing with authority. The team complies, and the devices hum to life, emitting a pulsing energy that seems to disrupt the very fabric of reality. To the humans' amazement, the Voth's energy shields, once an impenetrable barrier, flicker and fail under the onslaught of the Voth busters. The narrator paints a vivid picture of the chaotic firefight that erupts, with Riggs and her team pressing forward, their weapons tearing through the suddenly vulnerable Voth defenses. Plasma bolts and bullets fill the air as the two sides clash, the Voth soldiers reeling in confusion as their once reliable shields betray them. The humans, emboldened by their newfound advantage, surge ahead, their faces etched with grim determination. Riggs leads the charge, her plasma rifle spitting death with every squeeze of the trigger. She moves with the fluid grace of a born warrior, dodging incoming fire and barking orders to her team as they push deeper into the compound. The narrator emphasizes the turning point in the battle, as Riggs and her squad breach the installation's central command center, where they find themselves face to face with a group of high-ranking Voth officers. The alien leaders, caught off guard by the sudden intrusion, scramble for their weapons, but Riggs is faster. In a blur of motion, the commander lunges forward, engaging the Voth commander in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. The two warriors grapple, trading blows with shocking ferocity, but Riggs' years of training and raw determination give her the edge. With a final devastating strike, she sends the Voth commander crumpling to the floor, a symbolic victory that shatters the alien's aura of invincibility. As the rest of the team secures the command center and begins to gather vital intelligence from the Voth computer systems, the narrator underscores the monumental significance of this moment. For the first time since the invasion began, the human resistance has struck a blow against the heart of the Voth occupation, thanks to the ingenuity of Dr. Winters and the bravery of Commander Riggs and her team. The scene fades, the smoke from the battle still lingering in the air, as the narrator reflects on the glimmer of hope that now shines in the eyes of every human on Earth. The road ahead is long and fraught with peril, but with the Voth buster in their arsenal and heroes like Riggs leading the charge, the Resistance now stands a fighting chance of reclaiming their world and their future. As the news of the human Resistance's devastating attack on the Voth military installation spreads throughout the conquered Earth, the scene shifts to the heart of the alien occupation, the towering citadel from which Overseer Zalok rules with an iron fist. The narrator describes the tense atmosphere within the command center as Zalok, his golden exoskeleton bristling with barely contained rage, summons his top advisors to demand answers. General Zorgax, his wounds from the recent battle still fresh, steps forward to deliver the grim report. "Overseer, the humans have developed a new weapon, a device capable of penetrating our energy shields. Our defenses were useless against their attack." The narrator emphasizes the palpable fear that ripples through the gathered Voth leadership as the implications of Zorgax's words sink in. For the first time since the invasion began, the once primitive humans now pose a genuine threat to the Voth's dominion over Earth. Zalok's fury builds with each passing moment, his razor-sharp claws clenching and unclenching as he struggles to contain his wrath. In a sudden burst of uncontrolled anger, the Overseer lashes out, his talons tearing through a nearby console in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. "How could this happen?" Zalok roars, his voice echoing through the command center. "We are the Voth, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds. How could these pitiful humans, these insignificant pests, develop a weapon capable of challenging our superiority?" As the narrator describes the tense silence that follows Zalok's outburst, Admiral Krill, known for his calculating demeanor, steps forward to offer a pragmatic solution. Overseer, we must adapt our strategies and upgrade our defenses to counter this new human threat, Krill suggests, his voice steady despite the charged atmosphere. If we fail to evolve, we risk losing our grip on this world. Zalok, however, is consumed by wounded pride and an all-consuming thirst for vengeance. The narrator highlights the dangerous glint in the Overseer's eyes as he turns to face his advisors, his decision already made. No, Zalok growls, his voice low and menacing. We will not cower before these humans. We will not adapt to their tactics. We will crush them, once and for all. With a sweeping gesture, Zalok summons the holographic image of a group of towering, heavily armored Voth warriors, their faces hidden behind intimidating helmets. For their Praetorian Guard, Zalok announces, his voice filled with grim satisfaction. Our most elite warriors, trained in the art of hunting and killing. They will find this Commander Riggs and her team, and they will eliminate them, along with any other human who dares to stand in our way. As the Praetorian Guard prepares for their mission, the narrator hints at the looming showdown between the Voth's most formidable fighters and the human resistance's most skilled and determined soldiers. The fate of Earth and the future of humanity hangs in the balance as the two sides prepare for a clash that will decide the course of the war. The narrator shifts focus to a clandestine meeting between the indomitable Commander Zoe Riggs and an enigmatic figure known only as the Ghost. The audience learns that the Ghost is a legendary hacker and intelligence operative who has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to undermine the Voth occupation. The scene opens with Riggs arriving at an abandoned warehouse on the city's outskirts, guided by a cryptic message from the Ghost. The air is thick with tension as she cautiously enters the dilapidated structure, her hand resting on the butt of her plasma pistol. From the shadows, a tall, lean figure emerges, his features obscured by the dim light filtering through the dusty windows. As he steps forward, the narrator reveals a man with piercing blue eyes and a jagged scar running down his neck, the unmistakable visage of the Ghost. With a curt nod, the Ghost greets Riggs, his voice low and urgent. Commander, I have uncovered vital information that could change the course of this war. Riggs leans in, her interest piqued. Go on, she prompts, her gaze unwavering. The Ghost reveals that he has discovered the location of the Voth's central command ship, the nerve center of their entire operation on Earth. He believes that if the human resistance can infiltrate and destroy this vessel, it would throw the Voth into disarray and provide a rare opportunity for a decisive strike. Riggs' eyes widen as she grasps the magnitude of this revelation. The narrator describes the gears turning in her mind as she considers the implications of such a daring mission. My best fighters will be ready, Riggs declares, her voice filled with steely resolve. We'll hit them where it hurts. The Ghost, however, raises a cautionary hand. The command ship is heavily guarded and equipped with the Voth's most advanced technology, he warns. You'll need to upgrade your Voth busters and develop new tactics to breach their defenses. He reaches into his coat and retrieves a data chip, pressing it into Riggs's palm. Use the intelligence I've gathered. It may be the key to your success. As the meeting draws to a close, the narrator highlights the fire in Riggs's eyes, the determination etched into every line of her battle-hardened face. She knows that this mission could be the turning point in humanity's struggle against the Voth, and she is ready to lead her team into the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The scene fades, the audience left with a sense of anticipation as the stage is set for a climactic confrontation between the human resistance and the Voth's most formidable assets. The fate of Earth hangs in the balance as Riggs and her team prepare to embark on their most daring and potentially game-changing mission yet. The narrator invites the audience to bear witness to the climactic battle unfolding aboard the Voth Central Command ship. Commander Zoe Riggs and her team of battle-hardened resistance fighters, armed with upgraded Voth busters, courtesy of Dr. Winters, and critical intelligence from the enigmatic Ghost, have successfully breached the vessel's defenses. Now, they must fight their way through the ship's winding corridors and face off against the Voth's most fearsome warriors, the Praetorian Guard. The clash is brutal and bloody, with plasma bolts sizzling through the air and the stench of burnt flesh filling the confines of the ship. Riggs and her team press forward, their faces etched with grim determination as they cut down one Praetorian after another. The price of their advance is steep, however, as many of Riggs' loyal soldiers fall to the Voth's superior firepower and armor. Finally, they reach the command center, the heart of the Voth occupation on Earth. As the doors slide open with a hiss, Riggs and her remaining fighters are confronted by a sight that sends a chill down their spines. Overseer Zalok himself, resplendent in his ornate golden exoskeleton, wielding a massive plasma cannon. "Foolish humans," Zalok sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. "You dare to challenge the might of the Voth Empire?" Riggs steps forward, her eyes blazing with a fire that refuses to be extinguished. "We dare to fight for our freedom, you alien bastard." With a roar of defiance, Riggs charges at Zalok, her Vothbuster humming with deadly energy. The Overseer responds in kind, and the two warriors collide in a brutal dance of death, trading blows and plasma fire with lightning speed. Around them, Riggs' remaining team members engage the last of the Praetorian Guard, their weapons flashing in the dim light of the command center. The fighting is intense and chaotic, with humans and Voth alike falling to the unforgiving onslaught of plasma and steel. As the battle rages on, Zalok seems to gain the upper hand, his superior strength and armor allowing him to weather Riggs' attacks, but the human commander refuses to yield, her spirit unbreakable in the face of overwhelming odds. In a desperate gambit, Riggs lunges forward, thrusting her Vothbuster against Zalok's golden chestplate. The weapon hums and crackles, its energy field straining against the Overseer's formidable defenses. For a moment, it seems as though the Voth's armor will hold. But then, with a blinding flash and a deafening crack, the Vothbuster breaches Zalok's exoskeleton, sending the Overseer staggering back with a howl of pain and rage. Seizing the opportunity, Riggs presses her advantage, raining blow after blow upon the wounded alien leader. "Now!" Riggs shouts to her team, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Detonate the charges!" Across the ship, the carefully placed explosives erupt in a series of devastating blasts, ripping through the vessel's critical systems and sending shockwaves reverberating through its hull. Alarms blare and lights flicker as the command ship shudders under the onslaught, its once invincible facade crumbling before the might of human resolve. Amidst the destruction, Riggs and her survivors fight their way back to their extraction point, leaving a trail of Voth bodies and smoldering wreckage in their wake. The narrator paints a picture of bittersweet triumph as the humans make their escape, the price of their victory etched in the haunted eyes and bloodied faces of the remaining resistance fighters. As the command ship burns in the Earth's atmosphere, a testament to the blow struck against the heart of the Voth occupation, Riggs watches from the safety of a stolen shuttle. Tears stream down her face as she mourns the friends and comrades lost in the battle, their sacrifices forever seared into her memory. Yet even in her grief, Riggs feels a flicker of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness that has engulfed humanity for so long. The sacrifices of heroes like Jesse Holmes, the bravery of her fellow resistance fighters, and the indomitable spirit of the human race. These are the things that will carry them through the long and arduous fight ahead. The narrator speaks of how the struggle is far from over, with the Voth still clinging to their hold on Earth. But the balance has shifted, the once mocked humans proving themselves to be a force to be reckoned with. In the face of unimaginable adversity, they have shown the galaxy that they will never stop fighting for their home, their future, and their freedom. As the stolen shuttle streaks across the war-torn skies of Earth, carrying the battered but unbroken remnants of Riggs' team to safety, a new chapter in the history of the human resistance begins. The narrator leaves the audience with a sense of anticipation and determination, hinting at the trials and triumphs that await these brave warriors in the battles to come. In a distant corner of the Voth-occupied Earth, a small group of human survivors huddles around a flickering campfire, their faces gaunt and haunted by the horrors they have witnessed. Among them sits an old man, his weathered features illuminated by the dancing flames as he begins to speak. "Listen well, young ones," he rasps, his voice thin and papery with age. "For I have a tale to tell, a story of courage and sacrifice, of heroes and monsters, and of the indomitable spirit that burns within the heart of every human being." The survivors lean in closer, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination as the old man continues. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.